I'm trying to think of what I did after that. Oh, I applied for a job and went to work. I think so, because I must have graduated in June and I started in September with my job. So I went looking for a job in the different school districts. Yeah, that's what I remember.
And around that time, was that when you said you were a substitute at one point and there was erasers thrown in our art class?
I was a substitute. I don't remember that one. You have to jiggle my memory bank. I said something about being a substitute.
For an art class, and then...
Oh, why? On my first teaching job, I had to sub for an art teacher, and I didn't know how to teach art at all. I can remember that. And so they were making so much noise, and I just wrote a sentence on the board and it said, when the bell rings, I will sit down at my seat and be quiet. I don't know what it was, but then I found out that the kids in there aren't very, I would say, sharp. It took them the whole period to write that sentence, and they had to fill up the paper, the regular 8.5 by 11 line paper, and it took them that long to write it. So then I realized these are kids that are low ability or whatever. There wasn't very much you could do with them. And that's the one I told you that, where I saw kids actually throw erasers around the room. I'd never seen that before. Anyway, I didn't have to do, but I think once or twice I subbed in there, and I said, that art teacher, she needs to stay and take her class. She was just starting out too, and I guess she didn't have any clue of how to get her class or students in order or routine or whatever. That's the first thing I did, I guess. My kids had a routine. They knew exactly what they needed to do as soon as they came in. And the typewriters did all the talking and they didn't. So right after I graduated, I guess I took the test at Los Angeles City School District, and I guess they gave you a comprehensive, because it was typing. Maybe that was shorthand too, I can't remember. And then how you fared on the test, they lined you up 1, 2, whatever. And maybe I was number 10, number 9, I can't remember. And so when the jobs became available, the first person would get the choice, and they go down the list. So that's how I got my job. Well, then I had to go see the principals, because I remember the principals did a lot of the hiring too of new teachers.
So your main class was teaching typing?
Yeah, I prefer being in the business ed, because I really wasn't qualified, I felt, to teach anything else. And I think I told you, my first year they put me in an ancient history class to teach 8th graders. And when I took that was when I was an 8th grader. I didn't know much else except the text. And I couldn't hardly pronounce those ancient Greek words, those long names. The other ancient history teacher gave me kind of a things I could ask or what I could do, and I kind of just got through it then. And I felt my class didn't do very well at all, because it's kind of, all I knew was what the text said, and maybe I was one chapter ahead of the kids, and that's about it. I said, this is a sad situation. It was.
You try any self-study?
Well, and after that, I never got another I asked to stay in my major because I felt more confident. That's what I knew. I didn't know anything else. So I did. I stayed within my major, and it was the junior high. It was 8, 9, and 10. I think that was the grade I taught. So, I thought the school system's pretty sad. Actually, a lot. If your professor liked you in the School of Education when you were at UCLA, and he thought you were very good, he could recommend you to the different school districts. And so some of my classmates got some of those, I would call them nice jobs, because they were like not teacher, in the high schools where the kids were more geared to going to college. So I don't know if that means they're better disciplined, but there are not a lot of problems. Whereas you get, kids just trying to float through school, you have a lot of problems. So,
sorry, what year did you graduate from college?
I think it was 53.
And so after 53, then you were working as a teacher?
Mm-hmm. I student taught in the Valley at Van Nuys High School, and it was a nice middle range economic status, and the students were very well, I thought, eager, willing. I didn't have a discipline problem or whatever. So it just depends. And I thought that that seems to be the way it is. And the way our schools are, where we're located, the economic status of the families that live there.
A lot of the parents in that area kind of show interest in helping out at the school or helping out with the students.
Well, maybe so. Maybe there was more family or whatever. Because when you have a kid that disrupts the class, it interrupts the whole thing. And they just love to see what you're going to do. This is a big show coming up here. Mm.
Was it mostly white students, Mom? Or mixed?
Well, at Gardena was mixed. But they were, a lot of them worked at the aircraft factories. Didn't they, during the war, build airplanes or something in El Segundo, Gardena area?
Is Gardena what's the name of the high school that you said with the more...
Gardena Junior High, junior and senior high was one. It was the high school and junior high together. And then they had too many and they split, and they built a new senior high school, and then I just stayed at the junior high school level. And I would say that there weren't very many Asian teachers or Hispanic teachers there. I mean, I guess there just weren't in that area.
And how long did you work at that school?
I must have taught the whole year, because I got off of probation. And then I must have got in the second year, and then I met Dad
How did you meet Grandpa Singh?
on a blind date.
Who set it up?
Well, I had a girlfriend who was always asking me, Margie, you need to come go out with us or something. And I said, well, I don't want to be the third person with you too. She never told me that Jack, my husband, was with her. But one day she said to me, will you come out? Will you join us for dinner? Oh, I said, I guess I could do that. So when they came to pick me up, there was Dad, and that's how I met him. And he didn't know either. He said that he was just going to help his buddy. His buddy was didn't want to be too wasn't easy with my girlfriend Louise, and so he needed Dad to be with him because Arnold was from Arizona too. So that's how we met. And I spent the whole evening talking about going camping. And I hadn't gone camping that much, but anyway, that was the topic, and I always remember that. And Dad's always told me I kept talking a lot, and I think I was just nervous. Just a nervous kid.
How old were you at that point?
Let's see, must have been 22, 23. I think I got married when I was 24. So right around there someplace.
What was your first date with Dad like?
Well, we just sat and talked. I just told you, I just talked about
Well,
being
this
nice to
was
go
this was
camping.
just a group of you
No,
together,
it was
right?
Dad and me and his buddy Arnold and Louise. And we just went out to dinner. And that's all I remember. I can remember. And that's how I met him. So whenever
But I mean, your
Arnold
first
came-
one-on-one date with Dad.
Yeah.
Just you two.
Well, after a while I was working, since I didn't have to start until 12, he would come visit with Arnold over the weekend. They'd drive all the way. You know how far Phoenix is to LA? Good 6-8 hours. I guess they'd drive all the way. And of course, Dad's sister lived in LA. So he would stay with her. I don't know who Arnold stayed with. But anyway, since I didn't have to start my school day till 12, Dad would get there in Los Angeles in time, and we'd go out for breakfast, and then I'd go to work. That was the way our dates was, going out for breakfast. I think Dad, I don't know how it ever happened, but out of the clear blue sky, I always remember we were going somewhere. And I was thinking, so he's going to ask me one day, let's go steady or something like that. But instead, Dad said, will you remember me? Will you marry me? And I said, yes. When? And he said, I got to think about this. That's what
How long?
Wasn't a real long courtship, really.
No, 2 months.
Yeah, I think so.
And where did this happen?
When he came out to see me in Los Angeles,
Do you remember more specifically, like when
we were driving someplace. I don't know where we were going, but I always remember that. And I thought, gee, somebody popped the question, and I said yes. That's what I said to myself. And he always said he didn't. He was bluffing. He was just saying, oh, she's not going to say yes. She's going to say something else.
So he was the first guy that asked you to marry.
Yeah, well, the one I said yes to.
Oh, someone else had asked you
Oh,
before?
yeah. I had quite a few boyfriends.
Didn't you used to date the Asian actor?
Oh, yeah.
James Hall.
James
Hall.
Hall. Yeah.
This is before Dad.
Yeah.
What was he like?
Well, you know, it's like anything else. He's very outgoing. He likes to sing. He was a real good dancer. And it was just interesting. I mean, I'd never been out with a person like this.
How did you
But
meet
Mommy
him?
didn't like him at all. Anything to do with Hollywood or acting. And that's the only time I saw when I used to come in from a date that she would be up waiting for me. Are you there? Come on in. Say goodnight.
Did you meet him through a friend too? At a dance or something?
I must have met him. I met him somewhere, and all I know, he called me up one day and asked to go out.
He got your number then
Yeah,
from someone,
yeah, I think so.
unless he asked you for his number.
No, well, I don't know how I met him, but like I said, I just thought it was fascinating. In that the movie Love is a Many Splendid Thing.
Mm.
He was in it
Oh.
as he was played oh, um, you know, the person that you talk to before you sit down at a table. What's that title?
The maitre d'?
Yeah, I think so. And that was his part in the movie.
Oh.
And it was kind of interesting. I guess you have a speaking part, you get paid a little bit more or whatever. And he kind of wanted to be like a comic Charlie Chan type of person, but I don't think he ever got any roles in that category. And so I guess, you know, he had a degree from the University of Michigan in civil engineering, but he wanted to try hitting Hollywood. And I guess there weren't a lot of Chinese actors, but that still was a hard field to get into. And I don't think he ever did that. Anyway, it was just somebody different.
But mommy liked dad
Yeah, she liked him.
right away, or did it take a
No.
while for?
Well, she's worried I never get married. Because I was the last of the 4 girls to get married. Well, Margie better hurry up, make up her mind. She's been going out, but nobody serious. So that's just the way it was.
So mommy she met all the boyfriends of all your other sisters and
No.
interviewed them?
No. Bertha, she didn't watch. So Bertha met Bo, and it was during the war, and they had USO dances. I guess they call them USO. Have you heard of the term? Those were the soldiers that had a place to go for social functioning. So I guess that I guess a lot of them were stationed far away from home. They could go to these USO places in town and meet other young women, and they have socials like coffee and donuts or dances, and I think that's where the young people met anybody. Anyway, Bertha used to go to these, and these were Chinese service people, I guess, men, that are young men that would be traveling through Los Angeles. And so I guess they held one in Chinatown or somewhere. And she met Bo there, but Bo was not in the service. He's always said he was a 4F for whatever reason, but he wasn't a citizen either. So, and he liked to jitterbug, and Bertha was real good at it. So they, you know, when I used to go to dances, it'd be just, maybe there's 100 of us, and maybe there'd just be 3 or 4 couples jitterbugging. We would just stand and watch. But Bo and Bertha were real good at it. So she met him. I don't know how she met him or how, but anyway, Bertha got married to him when I was 16. I always remember how old I was because I wasn't able to attend. In my senior year in high school, I was a candidate, or I got to go to Girls State, and so I got a trip to Sacramento, and so that happened to be the week that Bertha got married, and I elected to go to Sacramento. And Jenny's husband is Bertha's husband's brother, and they kind of got them together. And Irene, my younger sister, I told you she went to the University of Berkeley, and she met Gene up there somewhere, but Irene didn't finish. She decided she wanted to try the sorority, Chinese sorority girl, and she started partying a lot. So she didn't study very much. So she got one of those letters that said, if your grades don't improve, you can't stay here. And so she didn't. She got booted out, I guess.
She never finished.
But anyway, she met Eugene, and they got together and got married. So that's where that one came from.
Did you have a story? You went up and visited her at UC Berkeley, and you went to a Stanford game, wearing a red sweater.
Wearing a red coat.
A red coat?
Red corduroy coat.
Oh.
And you could hear the whole stadium, "Take off that red coat." Wow, I was so embarrassed. But I didn't know that, or whatever. So I did. I took off my red coat. But Stanford's color is red. That's why.
Oh, yeah.
And or whatever. And at that time, Stanford was an all men's school. I don't think there were any gals going then. But they had a section in the football stadium on the opposite side for couples. And then you see all the Stanford men in a big cheering section, and then couples here, But you see Berkeley, we could sit anywhere, whatever. And it was exciting. I never thought I'd fly up to, where did we land? Must have landed in Oakland, right? To go to the football game. I must have stayed somewhere. I guess I stayed with Irene. I don't know. It's been so long ago. My exciting days in dating. See, in Los Angeles, I guess, the girls had clubs. One was the Kunying. I happened to be in the Lowa group. And I guess there were more. And each group sponsored a dance, and the Lowa group sponsored July 4th. I remember the Kunying had the New Year's Eve party. And it was kind of like a rivalry of girls, I guess, I don't know. One thought they were better than the other ones, I don't know. I think that's about it. I can remember. Oh yeah, the first time that Dad came over to take me out, Mommy said to him, Margie doesn't go out with anyone who smokes or drinks. You don't do that, do you? And Dad said, no. But he smoked. But she didn't know that. Yeah, well, it's nice to have the blessings of your parents when you do get married, because it makes life a lot easier.
Do you remember what it was like planning the wedding?
Well, Mommy gave me an allowance, and she just let me do it myself. So I just went out and I said, what do? First you find a church, then you have to find a pastor. And I wasn't going to church at that time or knew anybody. But I happened to go to a wedding that one of my, she wasn't a close friend, but I was invited to her wedding anyway. And it was at that church, Beverly Vista Community Church. And it was small, not too big. And I went to the ceremony. I thought it was really nice. I liked what the pastor said. So when it was time for me, I just went over there and asked them what the cost was, what do they do and everything. And I guess this is, the pastor asked that we talk to him before he'd like to know who we are. But I guess, and I thought it was nice. And he had it all printed out, exactly the ceremony and his sermon and what they do. And so I just chose that. And that's how I got that far. Like I said, it seems like such a shame. Well, first of all, it was my turn to find a bridal dress after my sisters had all got married. And it's a shame to get a nice gown and you only wear it a couple hours. And then it's been sitting in my house for the longest time. And when Jody got married, she opened it because I had it especially clean, so when, I don't know, it vacuum sealed it in, and it wouldn't turn yellow and whatever. But Jody and I are not the same size, so it didn't make very much sense to keep it that long. And I really don't know what happened to it now. But I had it that long. I kept it, carried it everywhere with me.
Did you say that Dad asked your mom to come with you on a date or something like that, or he was one of the first fellows that include Mommy on a activity?
Yeah, he was. He asked Mommy to go out to dinner with us, and she was so delighted, to think that, well, because none of the other girls ever said anything. But the other thing was, I don't know, he was not, how would you say it? I don't think you'd call it intimidating, but it's kind of odd. You're Chinese and your boyfriend's Chinese, but who is this lady, that you call Mommy or whatever? So, and like I said, she was very comfortable, or he was comfortable talking to her. At least he talked to her, So I thought that was a big plus.
Where's the first time you went camping?
Oh, well, we didn't go with Mommy. I went with Dad and another couple, and we just went up to Yosemite. I remember.
Did you go fishing?
No, we went hiking to those trails. I think it was just a couple of days.
Was it before you got married?
I think so. I think once we went, because the Reardon says, oh, we're your chaperones, because they were married. And I didn't know that Mr. Reardon, he had a impairment of some sort, couldn't really walk with one leg. He limped a lot. Of course, I didn't know he was the math teacher at the same junior high I was. But we had a real good time because he teased us. He said, we'll be your chaperones. So, and I think we only stayed one night and then we came back. But I thought camping was fun, just to be outdoors and be able to take a hike. It just seemed like a lot of fun to me. In fact, I think I told you they taught a course at UCLA, but it was more for those who want to be camp counselors. So we learned camp songs, games you could play with your campers, and that's about it.
You took that course?
Yeah, it was at UCLA. It was an elective. I always thought, and this is my opinion, there were a lot of gals in there, and a lot of sorority girls, because the professor was eligible. He was a bachelor. That's what I thought. Because they kind of tease in the class there. There were, I don't know. Anyway, we just learned how to make certain dishes over a little one fire pot or stove or whatever. I guess they showed you how to start a fire. I still can't start a fire. So, but most of it was singing songs, learning songs that they do in camp. It was the easy.
Was that one of those interactive songs that we did up in the Smoky Mountains? The one of the bears tromping through the woods and the.
I don't remember.
You remember that? Oh.
When did you study in Hawaii? When was that? Take the course.
My first summer after the first year of teaching, I decided I'd like to go to Hawaii. I heard about it from a lot of anybody who's been there. So I went. They had a 6 week. I went to I found this tour company that it was Students International Travel Agency or something. So they were all young people, and they offer you could go to the university. And then since I wasn't, had a serious relationship with anybody, I decided to go. And I think I told you, took up cooking, Hawaiian cooking, and hula. And there was about 500 other girls from the Midwest that looked like to me was doing the same thing. They all come to Hawaii and just spend 6 weeks there, I guess.
So you're there for 6 weeks?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not that good at the hula either. I thought, but it was kind of fun. And then in Hawaiian cooking, she required a paper, doggone it. And I remember I didn't have a typewriter or anything, but somehow I was able to find somebody who had one, who lived there, and borrowed the typewriter so I could type. But it's like work, come on, you know. And hula cooking, you didn't, and hula dancing, you didn't have to have homework. You just had to learn the motions and try to get that hip motion that's supposed to be like the waves, I guess. And I never did it very well. But anyway, it was fun.
You were on the Big Island the whole time you were there?
I was in Oahu. And then they offered a 1 week trip around the other islands. And so I had a picture of me, you know, in Hawaii, you learn how to go barefooted because that's what they used to do. And the picture shows me standing on that, you know how the airplanes used to have the stairs to go down, right? And I'm standing at the bottom of the stairs there with no shoes on. And I remember the stewardess, they knew how to do the hula. They did it for us when we were going on this 1 week tour, I guess, to all the islands. So I visited Maui, and we went to that crater, and I think we had like peanut butter sandwiches for dinner. I always remember that. So it was not a real luxury thing there. But anyway, we stayed overnight in the crater, and then in the morning got up and walked out. And that was on Maui. We went to Kauai, to some hotel that it must still be there, unless the hurricane slammed in it. But and we just spent a couple of nights there, and that was went to the Big Island, Maui and Kauai, 3 of them, and there must be one more, isn't there? I don't know, but I think that's what it was, and then flew back home. So it was a fun-filled vacation. I got to go to Hawaii. So when I got married, I told my husband, I said, let's go to Hawaii. And he wasn't used to it, you know, because it's real laid back. I guess in the grocery store, that was you get up, busy all day long. In Hawaii, you get up, you know, just saunter around. You don't really have to go anywhere. You can't go very far or whatever, and so it's just real
Slow pace.
Yeah, it's a slow pace. I didn't realize how slow it was until I saw Dad in the grocery store, always busy moving up and down, you know, or whatever, in the grocery store.
What do you remember about your wedding day?
Well, I got dressed at church, I remember. I don't know if there's anything significant or different.
Bo was taking the pictures?
Pictures, yeah. I thought he did a really good job.
Had he taken shot weddings before? Or
No.
He
He just wanted to do it. he had kind of a picture in his mind of what he wanted to show, you know, the was it Paul the ring bearer and Karen looking at the ring or something, but he wanted like a picture story, and I thought it was real nice.
Yeah.
Where I guess Jack's brother George, his photos are everybody's real sharp, you know. So a lot of people standing together, and
Very close.
everybody's real sharp.
Yeah.
It's not soft. I don't know how to
More
say.
candid.
Yeah, more candid, and his was real. But that's the way he liked it, I guess. And then you know, cameras were coming out. They were getting better with lenses, and the color was still new. I remember.
There were a lot of people at your wedding?
I probably had about 70 to 100 at the most. I don't think very many more. Mommy didn't walk down the center aisle, though. I don't know. I really didn't have anybody coming down. You know how they usually have the family? I didn't have anything like that. And Mommy, I guess, came real early, and she didn't go down the center aisle, someone said. She came down the side and then sat up in front. But I had a lot of flowers on that, I think, and I had candles on the pews, and they had to light them. And you remember Uncle Tuck? Uncle Tuck stuttered a lot, but he always, he had to light the candles on the, you know, on the pews, real, and you could see him before the ceremony started. That's what they told me. He said, Tucky was real nervous. I liked him though. Tucky had a good sense of direction, humor. Just Margaret was just real, like the mother, real dominant type of personality. Always wanted to be in charge, you know, kind. But Tuck would kind of laugh it off and say,
Yeah, I remember Uncle Tuck used to tell me, aside, he used to say, keep the peace. You could keep the peace.
yeah. Yeah, for some reason, Aunt Margaret thought I was going to raise a bunch of fire. I don't know what over. But
She was probably more like, had the personality of her mom,
yeah,
Rose.
yeah. Always demanding, never complimentary. You know, always. And I think with her kids too, she was right on top of them. We couldn't do anything. When, for some reason, I don't know why, Aunt Margaret wouldn't let her kids come and play at our house. My kids always had to go back to the store to play with her kids. And the toys were at my house, so you guys would carry everything, your games or whatever, down to the store. And I used to ask Dad, what is it? She does trust me with her children or something. And they're older than mine. So, but that's just the way she was. I remember after Christmas, we would go up and play in the snow, take a 2-hour drive, and park by the side, one of the side roads where the snow started, and then slide down the hill and spend an afternoon and turn around and come back home. But it was 2.5 hours away. And Aunt Margaret wouldn't let her kids go with us. I don't know why. They never could go with us. But we went anyway without them.
After your honeymoon, did you come back and still work as a teacher in LA, or?
No, I didn't teach anymore. I became full-time housewife. Getting adjusted to a whole different environment, because now I was in a Chinese community. Yeah, I didn't know too much about, but mother-in-law was said, I don't want other people talking about you. I said, well, what is there to say? I mean, she was always concerned.
When you first moved to Glendale, you started a women's group there called the Desert Jades?
Oh, yeah, quite a while. I think, well, no, Marianne was a baby then, yeah. So when I was in Los Angeles, I belonged to those Los Angeles Chinese Juniors. And I guess it's an organization of women's clubs in the area. Everybody, I mean, Van Nuys had a group, Pasadena, all these different communities had women's clubs. And their goal was service of some kind, whether it's collecting stamps, working for some service. I mean, it was, women getting together and yet doing something for our community. And for some reason, the Chinese were together. They didn't have a Japanese and a Spanish group, but we had a Chinese group. And that's how I got to meet other young Chinese gals. So I thought it would be nice when I moved to Arizona, because I didn't know anybody outside of the family. I said, there must be some other folks. Because, it seemed like to me if we went to a wedding festivity, we sat with the family. The sing group all sat together. We didn't really sit with other people around. So I really didn't know anybody else. And I thought it would be a nice way for me to meet other people. So I guess somehow we got a beginning group of 10 girls or so, 10 gals from the area, and said, gee, this would be a nice way once a month to get together, do something, but it would be a service organization. And like I said, I can't remember some of the community things that we did. And that's how I got to meet other people outside of the Singh family.
And what was it called?
The Desert Jade Juniors Women's Club. And juniors meant women under 35. 35? No, under 45. Were in this group. And then when you got older than 45, then you would join the women's club. And so, as I understand it, well, when I went to work, I had to drop out of the club because I didn't have time to do both. And that group has became the women's club because they you had to be under 45, right? So they didn't get enough younger Chinese gals to be in there, and so that group just said we'll become women's club instead. And now I think it's still active somehow, or not active anymore, but they stayed together, and I guess on the July 4th that we would sponsor a booth, I guess, where the July 4th was with all the Chinese in all of Arizona came together and had a gathering because we'd play baseball or softball, and we had like a carnival type of thing, and our group would have some kind of group. That's where we got the idea of, or I got the idea of the candles and the water gun. And that's what we had. And then we gave out little prizes. But like I said, I don't know what they did after a while. Or they would, we'd cook chicken wings and sell them or something. But it's kind of funny. Everybody would make their chicken wings, and when you put them all together, they all look kind of different. So we found out, we probably would do better if we have a restaurant make it. and they all look alike. And when people come to buy it from our booth, they wouldn't think something's different, but it was. Everybody kind of cooked them kind of different. I don't know. It was just a way of making money. We didn't know how to make pastries, the hambao or the dumplings, and we would have an elderly, one of the girls' mothers, or would come and demonstrate to us how to make the dumplings and stuff. Because I guess everything had to be made by hand then, or unless you went to go buy it. I never made the stuff. I tried it one time, and it took me all afternoon. I said, this is not, this is time consuming. So I didn't do it after that. That was a lot of work.
You said you eventually had to stop it because you were also working?
Stop in the club.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's
Was that
when.
back in LA?
No, that's when Dad, we lost our grocery store business. Remember? Well, it was becoming a thing of the past for the mom and pop grocery stores to be in business, and so we had to find work to do, and so that's when I went back to teaching. At first I just tried getting an office job, and Dad tried to find something to do to support our family. And like I said, I was amazed that he learned to do shoe repair by just watching somebody, because I know he didn't go to school or whatever. And since he could speak Spanish, and there were a lot of, there were several Hispanics that were doing it, and he would just go down there and watch them. So that's how he got into it. I used to get part-time jobs, I think. And then I said, I need to get my certificate in order, and so I could go into a teaching job instead. So somehow I qualified to get an Arizona certificate. I went to a couple classes, I remember. Something about the Constitution, Arizona Constitution. I only remember a couple, because I remember I did it at night, and they weren't too long. But I never went into the Arizona system. I had a chance to. I happened to go down to, I don't know why. Why did I send you down to ALA?
They were just starting up.
Yeah,
They
that's
started
right.
up out of St. Thomas.
Right. And I was into, my introduction into our faith. That's where it was. So.
How did you decide to enroll us in Grace Lutheran for elementary school?
Well, I think John was the one that went there first. In our school district, you would have gone to Unit 4, but I was so concerned about the reading approach that you guys learn how to write. And since I had a hard time, because I think I learned the sight method, I always had a hard time in reading. And in college, I had a hard time reading. And I felt it was because I didn't get a good reading background. And I wanted to make sure John would get a good reading beginning, whatever it is. And at that time, they weren't teaching phonics either. So, and I thought phonics was a better way to learn your English. After I talked to other mothers around, and one of them that strongly recommended Grace Lutheran instead of Unit 4 was Mary Struthers. And so that's how you got to go there. And I said, well, we can afford to send one kid there. Well, John caught on real good. Once he had the keys, I always remember by Christmas he was reading real well. And he liked to read the encyclopedia, but he was only in first grade. So somehow he caught on the, whatever it was, the keys, and I said, well, that, and I liked the teacher. I actually liked a teacher that was organized, orderly. Classes were quiet. Nobody's running around all over the place. So I thought that was more conducive. So that's why you got to Grace.
Did you go and sit in on the classes at Grace Lutheran?
No.
Before you sent them there?
No. Oh, I only went one time to Miss Brockhoff, and I remember I could hear a pin drop in the class. I said, boy, is this really quiet here? And the other teacher that came after her, Miss Muser, and she's handicapped. She's real short little gal. And she just ring a little bell and kids would be just quiet. I don't know how she got it that way, but just a little. I said, wow, this is really nice. So, well, and that was the reason I wanted you to get a real good beginning at reading, because I didn't think I got one. And I think that was a big hindrance. And I noticed it more when I went to college, when you had to read more books in one class, and I'm not a very good reader or a speller, and to comprehend that at all, I thought that was a big hindrance. But I squeaked through somehow. So that's what it was. I don't regret it. I'm glad we did it. So.
That's how we came to going to the Lutheran church?
Well, yeah, somebody introduced me. Oh, we got a new pastor coming in, and you'll like him. He's young. I didn't like Pastor Zimmerman that much. He was an older one at the school, where the school was. So I like Pastor Meyer. And
I remember they started out in a little mobile home, in a little trailer.
Right. Mm-hmm. I like going to that kind of church. We went into a living room, and we sat there. I thought it was kind of neat. And I was just real eager, and I thought...
And used to come over to our house to have Bible study in the living room?
Yeah. I was what you call a real new Christian in there. And I guess it kind of helped me when I was trying to adjust to being a housewife, being in a Chinese community, and not feeling like I'm really comfortable. So it really helped me to get my faith rounded, And I looked at it as these are blessings to me. They were. So. And somehow we managed to get through it all.
Kind of going back a little bit, when you first got to Glendale, what was the community? What was the Asian community like?
I didn't know. Maybe there were 1 or 2 or 3 families in Glendale, because there was in several markets run by Chinese. Maybe 3 or 4. Sings Market had been there since 1904. And I think the big part of one part of their customers were the braceros. You know who the braceros are? Oh, well, the farmers used to hire, they were Mexicans from Mexico, and they would work the crops. And they housed them too, didn't they? They lived there, but they didn't live in real good conditions. But anyway, they worked the farms. And the owner of the farms would bring their braceros to the Sings Market to shop every week. And it was a big grocery bill. So they'd buy canned juice, whatever. I really don't remember, because I didn't work at the grocery store at that time. And they had a good, thriving business with them until they didn't get braceros anymore. Now, I don't know what happened. or why we didn't get the farm help like we used to. I can't remember what happened. But, well, then the chain markets came in, and the local people, well, if you had a young family, the prices were better at the chain market, like Safeway, I can remember. That's a big chain, and El Rancho was a big chain. I'd go there too, because like Dad says, we don't buy our groceries through big distributors, you know. I mean, I think there's a middleman. There's somebody gets the goods and you buy through the middleman and then you sell, right? So I guess the chains were able to eliminate the middleman because they bought so much and therefore their prices could be lower. So a lot of the grocery stores just stopped in Phoenix then, because that's probably a lot of Chinese families had grocery stores. So that business went south.
I remember, I guess during the during the war that Sings Market had a warehouse behind the store that they were able to stockpile some goods and things that
they had coffee and tobacco, I guess, but at that time everybody had a little mom and pop grocery stores, and I think they all did well during the war. But then the chain markets came in, you know, just the economy changed, or not economy, but.
Your Grandpa Singh used to, for the regular customers that in a neighborhood that came in, if they didn't have enough money to pay, that he would take an IOU or something like that, and then they could pay him later.
Right, he did a lot of that, and that kind of made them float. Although sometimes somebody had to go and try to collect, you know, what they charge. So it's just like it seemed like a history of the way things change. You know, how they did their real well during the war, and when the war ended, then new type of marketing system came out, or because people didn't drive a lot then either, did they? You know, I don't hardly remember very much about the war, because I was about 10 years old, 9 or 10. I just remember airplanes flying over, and Mommy's brother, John, would go out with his binoculars and look at them, and that's about it. Well, we only had a radio to listen to, too. We didn't have TV to watch.
Wait, during which war is it that the stockpiling in the warehouse?
Oh, World War II. I didn't know that they had opened the Sings Market in 1904. That would be the year my dad was born.
Oh.
So I'm way down the scale of the Singh family, because I didn't realize that Grandpa Singh had been that business. He's that much older than my dad.
Do you know much about Grandpa Singh, about how he came to start Sing's Market?
Not too much. I really don't. No. Did you hear anything?
No. Not a lot. And how he.
I knew he was born in China, and so was Grandma Singh, and I don't know how they got over here. I'm not too sure, but
Do you know what the story is behind the last name? How he got his papers to enter the country, and then how he got the last name Singh?
Didn't they make an error on one of the papers, and that's how? What story did you hear?
I don't know. I think John has told this from what he heard from Uncle George. I've heard bits and pieces, but
That there was some sort of fire and a lot of documentation was lost, And
He
then
was like one of the paper tigers that came through
Oh,
San Francisco.
Oh, really?
And the passport had a very long multi-syllabic name on it. The customs agent shortened it down.
I don't know how it got Sing, it should really be Ong, O-N-G, because in Chinese, that's the way it transcribes. But because they belong to that particular clan or village or whatever. But I don't know how it became Sing.
And the two big families that settled in Phoenix were Tangs and Ongs,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think the Tang family, I think I told you, mother had 12 kids. And there was a Toy family, T-O-Y, and she had 12. And they were not considered related to the Tangs. But I don't know anything else. But at one time, everybody had a market, that's all I know. So it's like some Chinese markets said, well, we got big markets, and some were like ours, just a neighborhood mom and pop thing. And I guess people used to go to mom and pop neighborhood grocery stores.
I don't remember Sing's Market being like, I know it's like a neighborhood store, but it seemed like all the different goods and the produce they carried, it was more Americanized. It wasn't really like Asian. They didn't carry like a lot of Asian foods or some things like that.
It was mostly Americanized type of grocery store, yeah.
thank you, Grandma Sing.
No.